I read a strange book and we're going to talk about it. I think at one point or another, everyone's imagined getting up from their current situation and leaving. Some daydreams are elaborate. Some daydreams are as simple as just going home when you're in the middle of a work shift. But sometimes you always get that fantasy, what if I wound up in the world of Gravity Falls or Lord of the Rings, or stories where someone winds up in a world that is not their own are not uncommon in the literary world. Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, or there's those old wives' tale where you're not supposed to go wandering into a ring of mushrooms, otherwise you'll end up dancing fairies for the next 70 years. There are many types of these stories, even within the fantasy genre. But today I wanted to focus on a very specific kind of these stories. Isekai. Isekai is a Japanese term used to describe a story where a person from our world winds up in a fantasy land. A lot of isekai have main characters who fall into a familiar RPG world or have a lot of RPG tropes. Digimon Monster Ranchers are some of the old classics, but you may have heard of Sword Art Online, Overlord, Log Horizon, Hack Sign. There are so many of these kinds of stories. So many so that it is hard for a person to keep up with them all. So I like Log Horizon a lot. However, I'm not a fan of Sword Art Online, and I just spent my teen years confused by Hack Sign. Angustly confused, but still confused. All this to say I am at least familiar with the genre, well enough to know not all isekai fall underneath this umbrella. But right now we are talking about the ones that do. Most isekai anime start out as novels. This is not uncommon. Log Horizon was published on forums. There's a lot of them. Modern isekai nowadays can be boiled down to several traits. The main story is usually about some gamer man guy who gets stuck in an RPG. A lot of the times they get superhuman-like abilities, especially when compared to other players, and often a harem of women to follow them around. Oof. Granted, I'm aware nowadays this is less common, but there's a good chunk of time where this was true. But let's really think about it. If someone from our world woke up in a strange land, do you think they'd rise up and fight the big bad? Do you think they could even recognize danger where it lies and run away? If you use Goodreads, you're aware that there's a section of Goodreads that recommends books. One time I saw a book up there, that looked vaguely interesting, so I added it to my to be read section. I honestly forgot about it till I was looking for books to read, but when I found it again amongst the many books I have there listed, I realized that the author wasn't a typical author name. Pirate Abba. Pirate Abba, we'll be referring to them as Pirate from this point out. And this random book on my to-be-read list seemed kind of intimidating because of such a strange name. But I had a free credit on Audible and I said, why not? And it was worth it! The first thing anyone should know about this book is that it is 43 hours long. That's a lot of hours. The book itself is called The Wandering Inn. No spoilers, but I was totally expecting this book to Baba Yaga style get up on two legs, Hell's Moving Castle, and wander. It did not. It stays put. At least in the first of 7 thus far novels. But what is The Wandering Inn? Well, obviously it's an isekai, or as the author themselves refer to the novel, it's RPG lit. A lot of RPG books do fall into the isekai category, But not all isekai are RPG lit. So the book is about Erin, who's a young adult who literally just rounded the corner one day and found herself in another world. Immediately, Erin is running for her life, finds an inn, decides it's safe, and, well, becomes an innkeeper. What interested me so much about this was because usually in an isekai, you do have someone who is battling the monsters, who is working to become the greatest hero in the story. But when you realistically think about it, if just an ordinary person was stuck in that position, they'd do what they'd have to survive. There's a possibility that it's neither adventurous or glamorous or glory-seeking. From that point, it becomes a slice-of-life story in a fantasy setting. So what exactly is slice of life, and how does it mix with isekai? In theater, it's called naturalism. Slice of life was common in the 1950s. It was often confused with the British term kitchen sink realism. It dealt with the plight of the working class and all of their woes. However, in more recent years, it is more lighthearted and void of plot or character development. Slice of life nowadays is basically the mundane nature of everyday life in some form of media, whether it be a book, a movie, or a TV show. Admittedly, I dislike the term slice of life. Modern slice of life is very hard to define in non-anime terms. The results of a Google search I did for American slice of life. And,
Seinfeld.
Apparently Seinfeld is one. But when I Googled it, a lot of the results weren't American, and they were, anime. Again.
Seinfeld.
You're ruining my video.
I'm making it better.
So what's the deal with slice of life anime? Is it a genre? Is it what? Is there a plot? Do you know what slice of life? This. Karigano. It's about the day-to-day life of two very different students. Do you know what else is slice of life? Cromartie High. And why you could say the high school setting for these are very similar. The actual content of them is widely, vastly different. And even though they both are considered comedy, one is more grounded in realism.
Oh, there's a misprint.
Let me see.
And the other has Freddie Mercury as a character.
Get up, Freddy, you're sitting at my desk.
Yeah, get up. This isn't even your classroom.
By the way, Cromartie High is free on YouTube to watch, and you should do that. Like, seriously, pause this video and go watch. So you could usually find something similar to Karikano on like the CW or Freeform, but you'd be harder to, in American terms, to find something similar to Cromartie High. Are you going to say Seinfeld again? Seinfeld doesn't have robots. When we talk about slice of life in terms of The Wandering Inn, we look at Erin's day-to-day life. Her day-to-day life is adjusting to a new world, obviously. Before I dive deep into her day-to-day life, I want to warn you that there's spoilers. So far, 7 volumes. And if this is something you're very interested in reading, I suggest you pause this video, scroll down to the description box, and click the first one, because this story is free on the internet. You can go read all of it now. It's free real estate.
It's free real estate.
It's free real estate. Actually, it's free real estate.
Boo.
Why are you pulling me? I'm right.
So this is just going to be spoilers for volume 1, and not very many, but you're free to go and read, you know, the rest of the free 7 thus far volumes. With a lot of isekai anime, you see things like chat menus and leveling up and swords and lasers occasionally. Archers and shields and dungeon crawling and D&D things. Now I just kind of want to play D&D. The Wandering Inn is a mixture of an isekai and slice of life. So while it does have RPG elements, it also has, well, a twist on them. It does have monsters and leveling and adventuring parties. It even has dungeons, but it's not a game. The inhabitants of this world all level up. And I don't mean that metaphorically. They close their eyes and some voice goes, level up, and tells them what they earned. It's Erin Solstice, who just happens to find herself in a different world. She winds up settling in the inn, which is by a nearby city called Lesquor, which is filled with giant ants and drakes and gnolls.
Oh my!
Erin is a generally friendly person. Because she is new to this world, she lacks a lot of the prejudice that most of the humans in the world have. So the non-human races find her a bit of a mystery, though her lack of knowledge is a double-edged sword. Sure, she's friendly and polite to people who generally don't expect her to be, but because she's unaware of things going on, she makes several, faux pas, such as asking a drake if he's a dragon or a gnoll if she's a werewolf. And, if you're not used to anime, you might find her a little annoying. The longer the novel goes on, the more likable she becomes. She has her own hobbies like chess and music and innkeeping, I guess. She does reference a lot of nerd culture, and sometimes that can be very grating, particularly if we're talking about, Ready Player One, which just names things and expects you to understand them. Have me laughing, like when she tries to name a skeleton and just casually hints at Papyrus or Skeletor, but then deciding her skeleton friend is not nearly cool enough to have both those names. And along with Erin, there's Ryoka Griffin, who is not friendly and basically acts as sort of a opposite to Erin. She wound up in a human city and basically befriends no one, and refuses to level up. She does do one thing, and that is run. She's also taken up a career of city runner, which entails running between cities. Both Erin and Ryoka interact with their own set of characters in different ways. Both their day-to-day life build up to different things. At first, it just seems like a slow climb towards nothing. But as you see more of the world, the pieces start coming together, and it eventually leads to the bigger plot.
Hold on.
It is dark now. The world of the Wandering Inn is complicated. Erin's struggles are external, while Ryoka's are internal, and they learn how to deal with them with the help of people around them. And now, while that may seem like A plot and B plot, you get to know these characters a lot. May I remind you that this first volume of 7 is 43 hours long. And with the slice of life nature, you literally see everyone day to day. There's Ryoka teaching people to make ice cream. Erin figuring out how to serve acid flies to customers who do not have the same palate as humans. That's part of what makes the series so interesting. A lot of times in both isekai and non-isekai stories, characters can be, flat. The story can be too quick-paced, too action-packed, moving too fast for there to be any emotion connected with the story. There's no time to breathe. There's no time to get attached to the characters and care why these events are happening to them. But part of the fun of watching something like this is seeing the moments where the characters are people, connecting, and finding out that the characters had more in common than they once thought. To see the characters happy and having fun is part of why you kind of want them to be successful on their journey. Maybe there's an enemy who eventually becomes a friend. And maybe there's friends who bond over secrets. Here are some plot points that happened in Volume 1, some of which were solved and some of them weren't. What the heck happened to elves? How come there's half-elves but no actual elves? Erin saw a dragon when she first arrived. What's up with that? They often mention the necromancer. Lady Magnolia really wants to know about our world, but Ryoka won't tell her. Ryoka learns more about the history of this world and how humanity keeps spreading across the continents, and she often likens it to the spread of colonization. There's an evil king, That's the thing. Somehow things from our world keep winding up in that world, so who knows how that's happening. Erin's wizard friend is wanted by what I assume is the wizard police. There's what I think is interspecies romance. At least I think that's what's going on. It doesn't outright say, but they're all adults, and I guess... But I've seen The Shape of the Water.
No, you haven't.
Okay, I've seen commercials for The Shape of Water.
It smells like we've been here. Have you been talking about anime? We don't talk about anime in my tower.
And I haven't been talking about anime, just light novels. And I'm in my house.
Which is on top of my tower.
So there's all that. And, well, we're not even back to the biggest plot point of all, which is how is Erin going to return home? Or are they going to return home? We don't know, because this is 7 volumes online for free. Because The Wandering Inn is what's called serialized fiction. So, do you happen to read stories on Fiction Press or AO3 or Wattpad? Ever read a webcomic? These are all examples of serialized fiction. Serialized fiction is published a chapter at a time. With the rise of literacy in the Victorian era, they were popularized. Charles Dickens' The Pickwick Papers and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes were both originally serialized. The Wandering Inn itself is updated twice a week. With no editor or lit agent that comes with traditional publishing, things are a bit different. There's no one to edit or help an author plan out the story, which is why the slice of life aspect to it is so important. If The Wandering Inn Volume 1 was traditionally published in this manner, it'd be more like what the heck is going on, rather than just readers going along for the ride. But these kinds of things would be hard to publish. In the first book, there's a chapter where Erin tries to figure out how to navigate having a period in a fantasy world. Both Isekai and RPG Lit are male-dominated genres. Pirate Aba might have been forced to cut such things from their novel in order to get traditionally published, which is why it's good that it's serialized. There is also a lot of nerd culture in this, like a lot. Being a nerd myself, I rather enjoy it. But some traditional publishers might not. Serial web novels aren't unheard of. A lot of isekai, like I stated before, start as serialized web novels. Sword Art Online and Log Horizon, for example. But while you can buy an audiobook for The Wandering Inn, the rest of it remains free.
It's free real estate.
What makes this great is that this is Pirate Aba's full-time job. They're a writer. They are funded completely by community support. Now I wanted to discuss a few things about the story that stressed me out. It's not a nitpick or things I necessarily hate, but there are things that while I was listening to, really stressed me out. So here's my venting corner. There are a lot of fights in this inn. A lot. A lot of furniture breaks. How is Erin going to repair all of these chairs? Braga's a goblin. She stresses me out. Just her whole deal. Ryoka runs everywhere barefoot. Ouch. There's only one flavor of ice cream in this world, and it's vanilla.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Giant spiders exist in this world, and there is more than one type of them. What I like about The Wandering Inn is that it's a blend of 2 genres. Create something new and innovative. I love mundane things, and I love it when magic kind of becomes and mundane things kind of turn magical. Slice of life in a fantasy world can go in a lot of directions. You can go from things like The Wandering Inn to perhaps stuck in a tower with an evil queen. Admittedly, when you mix genres, you don't always get a success. Look at Bright, for instance. Cops and fantasy. But when it works well, it works really well. Look at Firefly or Yeehaw Bebop.
Some people call me the space cowboy.
Who knew cowboys in space were so successful? Space cowboys!
What's more, if you just want to read Volume 1 and leave it at that, I do think The Wandering Inn gives a satisfactory ending. However, like most series, it does leave room for curiosity and for the story to go on. I knew it. We're talking about anime here.
Hi. Well, this is my video. Thanks for watching. Happy reading!